What happens when two of Hollywood's most beloved personalities collide on live television in a way nobody saw coming? The answer might just shock you, because what started as a routine celebrity interview turned into one of the most explosive moments in daytime talk show history. Before we get into exactly what went down between Eugene Levy and Kelly Clarkson, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us what you think really happened here. Because trust me, you're going to have opinions. The Kelly Clarkson Show was taping live in front of a studio audience, and the energy was exactly what you'd expect, bright, cheerful, and filled with that trademark Kelly warmth. Eugene Levy walked out to thunderous applause, that familiar smile on his face, those iconic eyebrows doing their thing. Kelly greeted him with her usual enthusiasm, hugging him before they both settled into their seats. "Eugene Levy, everyone," Kelly announced, and the audience roared again. "I am such a huge fan. I mean, Schitt's Creek changed my life. It got me through some really dark times." Eugene nodded graciously. "That's very kind of you to say, Kelly. We put a lot of heart into that show." "You really did," Kelly continued, leaning forward in her chair. "And I want to talk about that. But first, I have to ask you about something I read recently. There was an article that came out last week about your early career, and apparently you turned down a major film role because you didn't want to work with a particular director. Can you talk about that?" The smile on Eugene's face tightened just slightly. "I'm not sure which article you're referring to." "Oh, it was in one of the trades," Kelly said, waving her hand casually. "It talked about how you had some creative differences with someone pretty big in the industry. And I just thought it was interesting, because you've always seemed so easygoing." Eugene shifted in his seat. "Well, Kelly, I think the problem with articles like that is they often take things out of context. The entertainment industry is full of people with strong personalities. And yes, I've had disagreements, but I don't think it's particularly productive to air those things publicly." Right, Kelly nodded. But there was something in her tone that suggested she wasn't quite ready to let it go. "But don't you think audiences appreciate honesty? Like, we're all human. We all have conflicts. I've talked openly about people I've clashed with in the music industry." "That's your choice," Eugene said, his voice measured. "Personally, I prefer to keep my professional relationships private." Kelly laughed, but it sounded a bit forced. Okay, I respect that. Let's talk about something else then. Your son Dan, he's incredibly talented. He co-created Schitt's Creek with you, and I've heard some people say that he was really the creative force behind the show. How do you respond to that?" The audience went quiet. You could feel the shift in the room. Eugene's expression changed, and not in a good way. "I'm sorry, what?" Eugene asked, his voice dropping. No, I'm not saying I believe that," Kelly backtracked quickly. "But there have been some industry insiders who have suggested that Dan had more creative control than people realize. And I just wanted to give you a chance to set the record straight." Eugene stared at her for a long moment. "Kelly, Dan and I created that show together. We wrote it together. We produced it together. And we acted in it together. The idea that you would even bring up some anonymous industry insiders trying to diminish my contribution to my own show is, frankly, insulting." "I'm not trying to insult you," Kelly protested. "And you could see her starting to get defensive. I'm just asking questions. That's what talk shows do." "No, what talk shows do is have conversations," Eugene shot back, and his voice was sharper now. "What you're doing is bringing up gossip and tabloid nonsense and presenting it as legitimate discourse. There's a difference." Kelly's face flushed. "Okay, I don't appreciate being told how to do my job, Eugene. I've been doing this for years, and I've interviewed hundreds of people, and nobody has ever accused me of dealing in gossip." "Well, maybe this is the first time someone's been honest with you," Eugene replied. The audience gasped audibly. Kelly sat back in her chair, clearly stunned. "Wow. Okay, I'm trying to have a conversation here, and you're being incredibly hostile." "Hostile?" Eugene's eyebrows shot up, which, under different circumstances, might have been funny, but right now it was intense. "Kelly, you invited me on your show, and within the first 5 minutes, you've questioned my professional integrity and suggested that my son deserves more credit for my work than I do. How exactly did you expect me to react?" "I expected you to be professional," Kelly fired back. And now her voice was rising, too. "I expected you to understand that as a guest on a talk show, you're going to be asked questions. Some of them might be uncomfortable, and part of being a good guest is knowing how to handle that with grace." Eugene laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Grace? That's rich, coming from someone who just ambushed me on live television." "I didn't ambush you." Kelly was standing now, and so was Eugene. The cameras were capturing everything, and you could see the producers in the background starting to panic. I asked you legitimate questions based on things that have been reported in the media. The media? Eugene repeated, shaking his head. You mean the same media that makes up stories for clicks? The same media that has no accountability and no interest in the truth? That media. You know what? Kelly said, and she was pointing at him now. Maybe the media has a point. Maybe there's a reason these stories exist. Maybe people who've worked with you have legitimate grievances. And instead of addressing them like an adult, you're attacking me for bringing them up. The audience was completely silent now, watching this unfold like a car crash they couldn't look away from. Legitimate grievances? Eugene said slowly. Kelly, you don't know anything about my career. You don't know anything about the people I've worked with. And you certainly don't know anything about my relationship with my son. What you do know is how to read something off a card that one of your producers handed you, and pretend it's a real question. That is completely unfair, Kelly said. And you could hear her voice starting to shake. Whether from anger or something else, it was hard to tell. I prepare extensively for every interview. I research my guests. I watch their work. I read everything I can find about them. Then you should have read better sources, Eugene countered. Better sources? Kelly's voice cracked slightly. Eugene, I have a team of professionals who vet everything that comes across my desk. These aren't random blogs. These are respected publications. Respected? Eugene scoffed. Is that what we're calling them now? Look, Kelly, I've been in this industry for over 40 years. I've seen careers destroyed by respected publications. I've watched people I care about get torn apart by journalists who wouldn't know the truth if it walked up and introduced itself. So forgive me if I don't share your faith in the media. Kelly crossed her arms. So what you're saying is that everyone is lying except you. That's convenient. That's not what I'm saying at all, Eugene replied, his voice getting louder. What I'm saying is that you have a responsibility as someone with a platform this big to ask better questions, to dig deeper, to actually care about the truth instead of just caring about ratings. Oh, so now this is about ratings. Kelly's eyes widened. You think I brought you here and asked you these questions because I'm trying to boost ratings? That's what you think of me? I think you're doing what every talk show host does, Eugene said. You're creating drama because drama sells. You're manufacturing conflict because conflict gets views, and you're doing it at my expense. The audience was shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Some people were looking at each other whispering. Others were just staring at the stage in disbelief. One of the producers walked to the edge of the stage trying to catch Kelly's attention, but she wasn't looking. You want to talk about manufacturing conflict? Kelly's voice had taken on a new edge. You walked out here with an attitude from the moment I asked you the first question. You've been condescending and dismissive, and now you're standing here acting like I'm the problem. Have you considered that maybe, just maybe, you're being oversensitive? Eugene's jaw tightened. Oversensitive. That's an interesting word choice. It's accurate, Kelly shot back. I've interviewed people who've been through actual controversies, real scandals, career-ending situations, and they handled it with more maturity than you're showing right now over a couple of perfectly reasonable questions. Perfectly reasonable, Eugene repeated. You question my creative contributions to my own show, Kelly. You brought up anonymous sources trying to paint me as difficult to work with. In what universe is that reasonable? In the universe where celebrities don't get to control the narrative completely, Kelly responded. You don't get to just show up on talk shows and have everyone throw softball questions at you and tell you how wonderful you are. That's not how this works. I never asked for softball questions, Eugene said, and he took a step closer to Kelly's chair. I asked for respect. I asked for basic human decency, and apparently that's too much to expect from the Kelly Clarkson Show. Kelly's face went red. Basic human decency. Are you serious right now? I welcomed you onto my show. I told you how much your work meant to me. I treated you with nothing but kindness. And this is how you respond. By attacking me, by attacking my show, by acting like you're somehow above all of this. I'm not above anything, Eugene said. But his voice was cold now. I'm just tired of playing these games. I'm tired of sitting in chairs while hosts pretend they're having authentic conversations, when really they're just trying to catch their guests off guard. I'm tired of the whole performative nature of these shows. Then why did you agree to come on? Kelly demanded. If you hate talk shows so much, if you think they're all fake and performative, why are you here? Eugene paused. For a moment, it seemed like he might not answer. Then he said, Because my publicist told me it would be good for my career, because apparently I need to keep myself relevant, because this is what you do in Hollywood. You make the rounds. You smile for the cameras. You pretend everything is wonderful even when it's not. Well, congratulations, Kelly said bitterly. You're definitely keeping yourself relevant right now. I'm sure this clip is going to be all over the internet by tomorrow. Is that what you wanted? Because if you were trying to make some kind of statement, I think you've succeeded. I didn't want any of this, Eugene said. And for the first time, he sounded tired. I wanted to come here, talk about my work, maybe make people laugh, and go home. That's it. But you couldn't just let that happen, could you? You had to dig. You had to push. You had to turn this into something it didn't need to be. I was doing my job, Kelly insisted. And there were tears in her eyes now, though whether they were from anger or hurt was impossible to tell. I was asking questions that my audience wants answered. I was trying to have a real conversation instead of just another puff piece interview where everyone smiles and nods and nothing of substance gets said. There's a difference between substance and sensationalism, Eugene said. And what you were doing was sensationalism. You were taking rumors and gossip and elevating them to the level of legitimate inquiry. That's not journalism, Kelly. That's tabloid garbage. Kelly wiped at her eyes quickly, trying to compose herself. You know what, Eugene? I don't think this is working out. I think maybe we should end the interview here. I think that's the first smart thing you've said all day, Eugene replied. The audience gasped again, louder this time. Someone in the back actually shouted something, though it was impossible to make out what they said. The producer, who had been standing at the edge of the stage, was now frantically waving his arms, trying to signal something to someone in the control room. Excuse me. Kelly's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, but somehow it carried through the entire studio. What did you just say to me? Eugene seemed to realize he'd crossed a line, but instead of backing down, he doubled down. You heard me. This entire interview has been a disaster from start to finish. And it's because you came into it with an agenda. You wanted drama. You wanted a viral moment. And now you've got one. I hope it was worth it. Get out, Kelly said quietly. What? Eugene wasn't sure he'd heard her correctly. I said get out, Kelly repeated louder this time. Get off my stage. Get out of my studio. This interview is over. Eugene stared at her for a long moment. The silence in the studio was deafening. You could hear someone's phone buzzing in the audience. A cough from somewhere in the back, the hum of the cameras still rolling. Fine, Eugene finally said. I'll leave. But before I do, I want everyone watching this to understand something. This right here, this is what's wrong with celebrity culture. This is what's wrong with talk shows. They don't care about truth. They don't care about art. They don't care about anything except creating moments that will trend on social media. And we're all complicit in it. The hosts, the guests, the audiences who eat it up. We're all part of this machine that values spectacle over substance. Are you done? Kelly asked, her arms still crossed, her jaw set. Yeah, Eugene said. I'm done. He started to walk toward the stage exit, then stopped and turned back. For what it's worth, Kelly, I really did love your music. I still do. I just wish you'd bring that same authenticity to your interviews that you bring to your songs. That comment seemed to hit Kelly harder than anything else Eugene had said. Her expression shifted from anger to something more vulnerable, more hurt. She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out at first. The audience was utterly transfixed. Nobody moving, nobody even seeming to breathe. Don't, Kelly finally said, her voice shaking. Don't you dare try to compliment me now after everything you just said. Don't try to soften this with some backhanded praise about my music. You don't get to do that. Eugene turned fully back toward her. It wasn't backhanded. I meant it. I don't care if you meant it, Kelly said. And now the tears were flowing freely. You just spent the last 15 minutes telling me I'm fake, telling me I'm manufactured, telling me I'm everything that's wrong with television. You accused me of ambushing you, of caring more about ratings than truth, of being a tabloid journalist. And now you want to tell me you love my music. That doesn't make it better, Eugene. That makes it worse. Kelly, Eugene started, but she cut him off. No, you need to hear this, Kelly said, walking closer to him now. The dynamic had shifted. She wasn't on the defensive anymore. You came on my show and yes, I asked you tough questions. That's what I do. But you know what else I do? I create a space where people feel safe to be vulnerable. I've had guests cry on this stage, share their deepest struggles, talk about things they've never talked about publicly before. And they do that because they trust me. They trust that I'm going to handle their stories with care, that I'm going to listen, that I'm going to treat them like human beings and not just content for my show. Eugene's expression had changed. He looked less certain now, less righteous in his anger. Kelly continued, "You walked out here with your guard up from the first second. You were defensive before I even finished my first question. And yeah, maybe I could have phrased things differently. Maybe I could have approached it more gently, but Eugene, you didn't give me a chance. You decided I was the enemy before we even started." "That's not fair," Eugene said. But his voice lacked the conviction it had earlier. "Isn't it?" Kelly challenged him. "Think about it. Really think about it. When I mentioned that article, you immediately got defensive. When I brought up your son, you accused me of trying to diminish your contributions. You interpreted everything I said in the worst possible light. And I get it. I really do. You've been in this industry a long time. You've probably been burned before. You've probably learned to protect yourself. But you protected yourself right into a fight that didn't need to happen." The audience was starting to react now. Some people nodding, others looking conflicted. Eugene stood there, and for the first time since the interview started, he looked genuinely uncertain. "I've had hard interviews before," Kelly said, her voice softer now, but still firm. "I've had guests who disagreed with my questions, who pushed back, who challenged me. But we worked through it. We had a conversation. We treated each other with respect even when we disagreed. That's what adults do, Eugene. They don't immediately jump to accusations and attacks. They communicate." "You're right," Eugene said quietly, and the entire studio seemed to lean forward to hear him. "You're right. I was defensive. I was ready for a fight before we even started." Kelly wiped her eyes again, but she didn't move away from him. "Why? Why did you come in here expecting the worst from me?" Eugene sighed, and suddenly he looked older, more tired. "Because I'm tired, Kelly. I'm tired of being asked about controversies that don't exist. I'm tired of having to defend myself against anonymous sources. I'm tired of feeling like every interview is a potential landmine, and I know that's not fair to you. I know you didn't create that environment, but I walked in here carrying all of that and I took it out on you." "That's not okay," Kelly said, but her tone had gentled somewhat. "You can't just attack people because you're tired of the industry. I didn't write those articles. I didn't create those rumors. I was just trying to address them so that you could set the record straight. That was the opportunity one was giving you." "I know," Eugene said. "I see that now. In the moment, all I could see was someone questioning my integrity, questioning my relationship with my son. And I reacted badly. I reacted really badly." Kelly nodded slowly. "You did. And I reacted badly too. I got defensive. I let my emotions take over, and I told you to get out of my studio. That wasn't professional either. You had every right to," Eugene said. "I was being cruel. That comment about you saying the first smart thing all day, that was uncalled for. That was me trying to hurt you because I was hurt. And that's not who I want to be." The studio was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every second of this unexpected turn. "So, where do we go from here?" Kelly asked. "Because I've never had an interview go like this. I've never had a guest, and I fight like this on live television. I don't even know what we're supposed to do now." Eugene looked at her for a long moment. "I think I should probably still leave. I think we've both said things that can't be unsaid. And trying to continue the interview now would just be awkward for everyone." Kelly nodded. "Yeah, you're probably right. But I want to say something before I go," Eugene continued. "And I want to say it clearly so there's no misunderstanding. Kelly, you're a good interviewer. You're a good host. The fact that I came in here with baggage and projected it on to you doesn't change that. I watch your show sometimes, and I've seen the way you connect with people, the way you make them feel seen and heard. That's a real gift, and I'm sorry I didn't let you do that today." Kelly's lip quivered slightly. "Thank you for saying that. And Eugene, for what it's worth, I do think you and Dan created something really special with Schitt's Creek. I do think you're incredibly talented. I never meant to imply otherwise. I was trying to give you a platform to address the noise, but I understand now that sometimes people don't want to address the noise. They just want to talk about their work. I should have been clearer about that from the start." Eugene said, "I should have told you I didn't want to discuss those topics instead of getting angry when you brought them up." They stood there for another moment, the tension in the room finally starting to dissipate. Then Eugene extended his hand. Kelly looked at it, then took it, and they shook hands. The audience erupted in applause. Not the excited, energetic applause from the beginning of the show, but something more subdued, more relieved. "I really am sorry," Eugene said loud enough for the microphones to pick up. "To you, to your staff, to your audience. This wasn't my finest moment." "Mine either," Kelly admitted. "But I think we both learned something today." Eugene smiled just a little. "Yeah, I think we did." He turned to leave again, and this time Kelly didn't stop him. He walked across the stage toward the exit, and just before he disappeared behind the curtain, he turned back one more time and gave a small wave. The audience applauded again, and then he was gone. Kelly stood there for a moment, clearly trying to collect herself. Then she turned to the camera, her eyes still red, her makeup slightly smudged from the tears. "Well," she said, and her voice was unsteady. "That was definitely not how I expected this interview to go. I think we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have some music, and we'll try to end this show on a better note than we're at right now." The audience applauded again, more supportively this time, and you could hear people calling out encouragement to Kelly. She smiled weakly, nodded, and then the lights shifted as they cut to commercial. What started as a routine celebrity interview had become something else entirely. A raw, unfiltered moment of conflict, emotion, and ultimately an attempt at understanding. Whether it was redemption or just damage control, only time would tell. But one thing was certain. This was an interview that nobody who witnessed it would ever forget. So, what do you think really caused this blow-up? Was Eugene out of line, or was Kelly pushing too hard? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button, and let's keep this conversation going. What would you have done if you were in Eugene's position?